To my far left is Bob Orr, my assistant from the national office. To my left is the chairperson of the Electromotive Caterpillar facility, Bob Scott, who obviously did an incredible job representing the interests of his members along with the other bargaining committee members. To my far right is Tim Carey, the president of the local union. And of course, Tim received a great deal of community support. And like Tim and like Local 27, we want to extend our appreciation to all of those community activists that supported us, our neighborhoods, our friends, business, the Ontario Federation of Labour, the Canadian Labour Congress, the International Labour Movement. We got a tremendous amount of support from one end of the globe to the other. And again, Tim Carey is incredibly proud of his community, and rightfully so. And to my right is Peter Kennedy, the National Secretary Treasurer of the CAW, and again played an integral role in this closure agreement. And my name is Ken Lewenza, President of the CAW. So let me begin by suggesting to you today that we have a overwhelming ratification of a closure agreement, 95% ratification. 400 workers voted yes for the closure agreement that we bargained for them. 22 said no, and one spoiled ballot. But I don't want anybody to misunderstand that the 95% is not an acceptance of what Caterpillar did. It's a 95% in support of the bargaining committee and recognizing that the closure agreement that we bargained on behalf of our members with a very tough employer was incredibly good under the circumstances. So our members are leaving the hall here today with their heads up high, feeling good about their union, but again, facing the uncertainties of not having a job. And as I said in my speech to the membership today, they joined 400,000 manufacturing workers that have lost their jobs in the last 4 or 5 years. And again, we're going to need some incredible public policy mechanisms for us to kind of reverse this trend to preserve manufacturing jobs, decent wages, decent benefits, and decent conditions for workers to be able to raise their families and put their kids through school. So again, we are very much appreciative of the support that the bargaining committee was given, the national union was giving, but nobody should be misled in any way. Nobody's walking out of here celebrating. People are now walking out of here with a soft transition to job loss. And again, I want to express to those that may be listening in the community today, if there's employment opportunities, we have a high-quality, high-skilled workforce here today that would provide the same productivity and skills to you that they provided Electromotive. So I would thank the community in advance for their support. Again, I want to raise the importance of this struggle and the recognition that this was not in any way an opportunity for the CAW to get a bargain collective agreement with Electromotive. The facts of the matter is they proposed an agreement that would reduce wages by 50%, eliminate a pension plan, and add significant co-pays to our health care benefits. And as a result of us rejecting that proposal, we obviously were forced into a lockout, not a strike. We said from day one that we would continue to work under the existing collective agreement until we got a collective agreement. But as you bargained since the lockout, it became very clear that there was no intention by Caterpillar to reopen and manufacture in the Caterpillar facility, regardless of what we did at the bargain. And I just want to raise with folks that, we have a document, and I will show people at the conclusion of the press conference that it was reported back in June of 2011 by the president of Progress Rail that they couldn't get a deal a year ago with the CAW. Therefore, they've made a decision to transfer our operations to Muncie, Indiana. That was a year ago, and again, we have a written document that was put on the web of Caterpillar, and that would have been grounds, quite frankly, of bad faith bargaining. But most of the folks in Ontario will know bad faith bargaining is a feel-good opportunity. We would win bad faith bargaining, but as a result of us getting a closure agreement, recognizing that that was the company's objective that met the needs of our members, then obviously that's not an option. But I also want to say that we're going to continue in the CAW and in the labor movement more generally to ask the federal government to again review the Canadian Foreign Investment Act. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this particular issue. It's a simple question. The Canadian Foreign Investment Act is decided based on whether you approve the sale based on a net benefit for Canadians. So somebody would have to tell this community today, and 465 CAW members and 300 salary members of Electromotive, how this became a net benefit for Canadians. today's high productivity, highly skilled, high quality workforce, and the facts of the matter is the employer bought it to take our intellectual property and exploit labor from one end of the country to the other into another state. So we're going to continue there. And then the other frustrating part about it, many of us in this room know today that many workers have lost their job that are not organized, that don't have the union strength to go bargain a closure agreement. I talked about an Oshawa call center that just a few months ago shut down and put 600 workers out of a job. Never got employment standards whatsoever because they had no representation, and the workers left them high and dry. In Sarnia, just recently, there was another call center that was closed, left high and dry, and workers not getting employment standards. So again, it's important that people recognize that there's so many workers that are not represented, that deserve representation, and are getting caught in this kind of restructuring of the economy. And we're going to continue to speak for them. And that gets me to the next point. In the province of Ontario today, under the Employment Standards Act, if a workplace closes, anybody with less than 5 years service or under get absolutely nothing. Nothing. Goodbye. See you later. Anybody with more than 5 years service gets 1 week's a year service up to a cap of 26 weeks. So obviously that isn't conducive to the kind of economy that we have today. If the governments are going to introduce free trade, if they're going to allow global to move from one country to another, they have a responsibility to legislate important initiatives to protect workers, to provide a soft landing. So we're going to continue to work with the provincial government on that. We're also going to say to the federal government and provincial government and municipal government that the question of tax incentives, again, providing a carrot to keep jobs here is a good idea. But there's got to be a condition that if you get a tax break, then you're providing jobs here for the long haul. You just can't take our R&D money. You can't take our tax breaks. You can't ask for corporate tax breaks, then move our jobs to any place in the world as you see fit. That's exploiting Canadian taxpayers, and it's exploiting communities like London. So again, we have to increase the employment standards in the province of Ontario to make sure workers aren't at the whim of the employer when a workplace closes. Obviously, we have to improve the Canadian Foreign Investment Act, and obviously we got to say that tax incentives, people like Caterpillar and Electromotive and others who got it, it shows this living proof, one more time, that our members have joined 400,000 manufacturing workers that are out of a job that need a government to stand up for Canadians, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to ask the government, the provincial government, to take a look at the labor laws in the province of Ontario and see if they meet the challenges of today's restructuring economy versus letting the multinational corporations do what they want. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us today. We have a ratified vote. And again, we're pleased with the support that was given to our members. We're pleased with the work of our bargaining committee, but we are incredibly saddened today that 465 middle-class jobs represented by the CAW are now taken out of the community and no longer have these folks have the ability to go to our stores, go to our business, share the success of a good job, paying decent wages and benefits. So those workers leave here today feeling incredibly good about their union, but very, very insecure about their future. And the CAW is going to continue to work with them. We also got a $350,000 transition payment that the local union will coordinate training opportunities, will coordinate second career opportunities, will show people and assist people in resumes. We'll be out there providing as much support as we possibly can for our members. So I want to conclude by thanking all of those that supported our CAW Caterpillar membership, all of the journalists out there that recognized and wrote on the unfairness relative to this particular position, and really challenging government as we challenge, whether it's intellectual capital or whether it's labor rights or whether it's human rights. There's been a lot of good journalists out there on this particular issue. I want to thank the generosity of the community, that so many people stopped on the picket lines, gave coffee, gave money, provided that moral support for workers to feel good about themselves. And then, of course, the municipal government under Joe Montana spoke very aggressively about the quality of the workforce. Dalton McGuinty, the Premier of Ontario, spoke fairly aggressively about finding a balanced approach to bargaining. Unfortunately, even with all that support,